Hi, everybody. My name is David Mashian, and I'm Dave the Real Estate Guy. And today we're going to cover Chapter 13 in our Commercial Real Estate Brokerage Boot Camp. Today we're going to talk about disciplined activity. We've been talking about this quite a bit over the few chapters, but this is how you're going to increase your probability to become a high probability broker where you're going to start closing more deals, creating more deals. You're going to ramp up your probability of closing. So, as we talked before, you're the doctor, right? People list when there is personal pain and you can solve their problems. This is the best motivation where it's non-financial. And you want to be able to talk to people and find out what is going on in their life and help them in accomplishing what they want in their lives. Find out what's going on in their life in terms of personal pain. Maybe there's a divorce going on, a bad health situation, or I don't know what that's going on. But if it's non-financial, usually those are the greatest motivators. It is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed. Napoleon Hill. So for the highest probability prospects, what are those, right? So when you get into a meeting with somebody, a prospect, and you're talking to them, what are the highest probability prospects? You want to find out what's going on in their life. Why did they meet you? There's a reason they're meeting you. It's not just for randomness. They're meeting you. Even if they're not conscious of why they're meeting you, something inside them tells them that there's a need for meeting regarding their real estate needs. One of the obvious ones is death. There's been a death in the family, or somebody feels like their principal who owns the property feels like, they're going to pass on pretty soon. So they're going to get prepared for that. I've heard about so many people who are selling their properties because they want to cash the money out, either spend it on themselves or give the money to their children because they know that the children will not want the real estate or will end up fighting over the real estate. So what they're doing is solving a problem. So death is a reason that people sell properties. And you want to find out what's going on, right? Illness, obviously very akin to death, right? If somebody's experiencing illness, maybe they don't want to deal with property management. Maybe they're ready to spend the money that they've earned their life in their investments. Whatever the motivation is, you want to find out what's going on. How is that going to motivate them to list their property, right? And work with you. Sometimes people want to retire. They're kind of done with it all. They want to cash out and start living the life, right? Go on those trips that they never had a chance to go to. So retirement's a great reason. And of course, divorce. There's been some brokers that I've seen literally sell tens of millions of properties because there was a very bad divorce in play that's caused the properties for sale. Also, inheritance. When somebody passes, the kids inherit it. They really want to sell the property. Usually, the kids who inherit it, they have no interest in the property. And even if they do, there's too much disputes or fighting going on. So they want to kind of move on. Another one is an expired listings, right? There's a person that indicated, hey, I'm ready to sell. I'm ready to do something with this property. It didn't happen with the last broker. Let's try you, right? So that's a good one. That's an obvious one. And also for sale by owner. A lot of times these for sale by owners, the owner will not sell the property. You'll understand why once you call the owner. They're not very forthcoming with information. Sometimes they're antagonistic with a potential buyer. And a lot of times they don't offer enough information for a buyer to make a decision, or even a lot of things that typically we'd expect in being able to buy a property. So by contacting a for sale by owner, a lot of times they just need to realize that they're not going to sell the property the way they are. They kind of get to the point where they're going to list the property. So those are good ones. Also, owner occupied. I touched on this in the last video, right? If an owner is occupying a property, let's say they're an industrial distributor and they have an industrial property, right? They're distributing widgets and they have an industrial property they're occupying. they may want to expand, right? So they may want to sell that property and move and exchange into a larger one, right? Which leads us to 1031 exchange buyers. Those are excellent prospects. And you can find 1031 exchange buyers by finding out what properties sold recently within the last month or two, right? Those are going to be highly motivated buyers because they just sold. They're under the time gun of the IRS 1031 exchange rules. So they're going to be so motivated to buy something. But similarly, what happens is a lot of times when people are start selling or sell a property, some kind of event, some kind of life event or business event that's gone on that's causing them to want to sell more property. So oftentimes if they're selling one property, chances are, very high chance, that they're going to sell other properties. They're usually selling out of their portfolio. It could be a sellout because they're downsizing. It could be a sellout because of death, illness, retirement. It could be a lot of reasons. But once they start selling, people are moving on. So downsizing we just talked about, right? A company may be downsizing. That's why they're selling. If you read about companies that are downsizing, their business is down, they're losing business, they're going to be vacating properties. Those are high probability prospects for leasing, right? Or even for the sale of the property. No property owner is going to be too crazy about having a vacant big box, that they have to carry. So those are great opportunities to sell, right? So similar to divorce, you got bad partnerships. Sometimes business partners, they kind of grow away from each other, or maybe something happened. Whatever it is, the partnership's at its end. Those are good ones. They're usually very motivated. Out of state or distant owners. You can usually find this out by seeing where the property owner is relative to where the address of the property is. If they're in another state, chances are they probably haven't seen the property in over a year easily. And they're kind of detached from the property. So when somebody calls them about it, they might be eager to sell because they kind of want to be done with it. And I've sold many properties that way with people I've just literally talked to on the phone and ended up selling their properties. So those out of state or distant owners are great prospects. Another high probability prospect is multiple property owners. So if you see somebody who owns, let's say, 20 properties compared to somebody who owns one property, what are the odds that somebody who owns 20 properties is going to sell compared to somebody who owns one property? It's going to be 20 times more because they have 20 properties. And once they start selling, like I said, it's going to be the whole portfolio a lot of times. So multiple property owners with multiple properties are going to be great targets in terms of prospecting. On the other end, let's say they owned a property for more than 10 years. That means they're kind of, they're cycling through the ownership phase of this property. They might be done with it. The longer they've owned it, the higher the chances are that they're going to be done with it. So if they own it 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, if they're in their 40th year of owning it, you got a high probability that they're done with that property. They're going to move on. So those people who own properties for a long time, those are good prospects. And of course, something to talk about property owners is how they feel about management. A lot of times people have gotten, older. We're all aging. And later in life, they're just not too crazy or energetic about going down there and fixing the toilet or listening to a complaint by a tenant or whatever is going on. So a lot of times they're just tired of management. And that's a great reason for them to sell. They just want to move on and be done with that headache. And similarly, a lot of times you see that owners are leasing their properties themselves. And you'll see that online. You'll see the agent is not an agent. It's an LLC that owns the property. If you call that person, you may be able to get a listing to lease that property, be the leasing agent, or even they might be wanting to sell it. They may not be wanting to really lease it. They're kind of done with it. They might just want to get out of it. So those are all great prospects. I'd really suggest you try all of these and see which one works for you the best. But These have worked. I've used them all, and they're all great. So let's say you got your contacts now. You talk to them, you met with them, etc. You want to find out who are the people you want to focus in on the most, right? Obviously, we want to focus in on the ones that are going to transact sooner than later, right? So your A priorities are going to be the ones who are going to transact within 6 months. The B priorities are going to be the ones who are going to transact within 12 months. And the C are going to transact within 24 months. Essentially, those are very low priority. So with A-level contacts, you want to develop more personal relationship with high probability clients, right? You're going to have more frequent in-person meetings. You want to meet with them. You want to call them. You want to take them out to lunch or coffee appointments, or go to special outings or golf or whatever interests them, right? You want to create more contacts and more reason that you're going to be top of mind when they're ready to move on. Those A-level contacts, they're ready to move within 6 months. You want to be on top of those people. Also, you want to meet clients and prospects for lunch, coffee, dinner, etc. Whatever it is. Every society and culture has food as its social occasion. It's a natural binder of people in creating relationships, right? We literally break bread together to form a friendship, right? So meeting people over food or drinks allows them to relax and create a greater bond with you. They're doing something they enjoy, eating, relaxing. So that brings down their guards, and they start becoming more uh, wanting to create a relationship with you, more interested in you. They're no longer guarded like they were before. In such an environment, the prospect is out of their normal environment and will allow them to open up to you and be less guarded. So it's a great way of creating friendships and good business relationships. So A and B level contacts, you want to have them be, the prospects to have you be constant top of mind. Now, how do you do this? You do this through marketing, right? In-person meetings we just talked about, regular phone calls. You want to put them on your email drip marketing, right? So when you got a listing, they get to know. When you sold a deal or leased a deal, they get to know. Create postcards. Postcards are super cheap nowadays. You can literally order 50 postcards, stamp them yourself, address them, and send them out to people. They'll think, they're going to see these and they're going to remember you. Okay? And email blasts where you talk about your listings, just listed, just sold. It's awesome. Those are going to keep you constantly in front of them. And they're going to respond. At one point, they're going to respond. So a prioritized contact is you want to work with people that will commit to you, right? In writing, right? That means a listing agreement. That's the highest priority contact. They're going to give you a listing agreement, an exclusive listing agreement, or an exclusive buyer tenant representation agreement, right? The next ones would be just a commission agreement, right? Like an open listing, right? Or just a commission agreement. Or they sign off on a confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement. But the best are obviously the exclusive listing agreement or the tenant representation or buyer representation agreements. Those exclusive listings tell you that this person is serious, they're ready to commit with you, and that's a high priority contact. Those are going to be, obviously the listings is the crown. When you get that, an exclusive listing, those are the ones you want to focus on selling, because when you sell those, that's a paycheck. So another way of prioritizing contacts is work with people you can build a positive and long-term relationship with. Okay? You see a continually active leasing or sales opportunities. They have multiple properties. They have a need for what you offer. They want to work with you. You become their fallback, their go-to person. They have a retail property that you're going to sell. They have another one that they need leasing. They're going to contact you. Even if you're not the right person for that, you're going to refer it to somebody who's going to be able to help, right? right? If they own multiple properties, that's the gold mine. Then you're going to have a lot of business to transact with them. Those are the best contacts. So you also want to work with clients that will honor their commitments to you. Okay? So they're not going back and renegotiating their fees when you've already committed and you already done the deal. They're coming in at the at the closing table and trying to negotiate your fees. That is not somebody you want to work with. And you do not absolutely give anything. This is a tactic where they're hoping that you are so in need of that commission that they're trying to prey on your weakness. So if that's the kind of person that's you have to deal with, okay, so be it. But try to get better clients. That is not a good client. Also, you want to work with people that have shown positive behavior interaction with you. They respect you. They respect your time. They listen, and there's a good relationship here. There's a good rapport. These are the ones that are going to be a pleasure to work with. So you want to keep those. So, you want to work with people that value your service and respect you, like I was saying before. They trust your integrity. They listen to your feedback. They look to you as their real estate go-to person. A lot of times people who I work with uh, like the fact that I'm honest. They trusted me. A lot of that had to do with my being honest, but also a rapport building that made them feel at ease with me. So, and that could be simple things like calling them back, emailing them back, timely, responsive. They feel safe when somebody's that way. And you also have to be able to say no to working with a prospect. Actually, the word no is so important. Saying no is important because you want to use your time as effectively as possible. Your time is worth money, and spending time on someone or some deal that is wasting your time, it's not worth it. Are they worth spending money on? Is this deal so good that it's worth spending time on? You will actually get to your goal more effectively if you are able to say no to what is not in your high priority target, right? It's not, if a property is not your property that you represent, or it's not in a geographic area that you work in. If you're a sales agent and you got a leasing opportunity, you refer that out. You got to say no. No is going to make you more money because you're going to stay focused on what is important and what will work. When you say yes to everything, you kind of dilute yourself and you become a boat without a rudder. You have no direction. So saying no is going to be important. I've actually made more money by saying no than to saying yes because I stayed focused on what's important and what's going to work. I can't overstate this. That word no is going to be very powerful for you to be able to stay on target and stay true to your course of what you're doing. Also, prioritize contacts. Not everyone can be or is going to be your client. Also, you really don't want everybody. You really don't need that many people. You only need about 7 good clients that are regularly transacting to have a good, solid book of business. And you want to spend time upgrading that 7 because sometimes people fall off, they lose, life changes, maybe they sold everything, they leased everything, whatever, they're done. So you got to constantly replace them. But generally, if you got 6, 7, you're rock solid. You don't need the whole world. You don't need everybody. You just need a handful of good clients that are going to give you consistent business. That's going to keep you more than busy. So how do we qualify prospects, right? We ask them questions. And here are some very important questions to take note of when you're meeting with a prospect. Here are the questions you want to ask, right? Why do you want to sell? And you want to listen to the answer and take notes. A lot of times, actually, interestingly enough, if you're taking notes, the prospect will take the meeting more seriously and really start paying attention. And they'll respect you and your time because they see that you're giving them quality attention and quality time. So make sure you write these notes down, right? Why do they want to sell? Is it illness, retirement? They want more money, whatever. Find out. What do they own, right? Just because you saw they own several properties online doesn't mean that that's all they own. They might own a lot of other properties on different entities, or their children own them, or whoever owns them, that they're not telling you because they're not thinking about it, not because they're hiding it. So when you ask, what do they own? That's going to open up more possibilities for you. Way of qualifying them to see how active a prospect is what have they bought or sold in the past 2 years, right? If they're doing something recently within the past 2 years, they're pretty active. But if they've done nothing or more than 2 years, they're not very active. You may want to ask them, why did they buy, or why did they sell in the past 2 years, or why did they not? Also, you want to know if they work with a broker already. Sometimes they work with a broker and sometimes they don't. Maybe they do work with a broker, maybe they're happy with them, maybe they're not. I don't know. It's worth asking, right? And hear how they talk about the broker. It's very possible that maybe if they're talking negative about the broker, that's not the person you want to work with, because they're going to talk negative about you too. So listen to that. Super important point is the next one is, are they the only decision maker? I've made this mistake so many times by not asking this question, and even when I did, they gave me an answer. Oh, yeah, my wife is on title, but I make all the decisions. Or my partner is on title, but I make all the decisions. You need to be in front of all the decision makers to get that listing. If you only have half the equation, there's nothing going to happen. You'll find out that a lot of times they're not the decision maker. They're just saying something. They're just, I don't know why they say these things. Maybe they want to feel important, or they're the boss, or whatever is going on. But a lot of times it's wrong. Whether it's an outright lie, I don't know, but it's wrong. So you want to make sure you're in front of all the people that are decision makers. All right. So, and if they're not there, say, can we set up a meeting with all the decision makers at one time? Because otherwise, you're just going to have a chit chat with some guy that has no control, and you're wasting your time. That's all it ends up being. So, critical last question. Is there anything that would delay a sale decision? They're not going to tell you what would delay. Oh, my grandma has to move to Oklahoma, and I'm going to help her move, and she's moving in 6 months, and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. You need to find out. What is their thinking that would cause a delay in them listing and selling a property, or listing and leasing a property? You want to find that out up front. You want to make sure you're doing all your homework up front, so you're not wasting any time with somebody that's just going to be a deadbeat. All right, all. So we're on chapter 14 next. I'll talk to you later.